I could not do it. I could not stay away from the mock draft simulator that long. We are back on the 2025 NFL draft simulator for PFF. Bit weird saying 2025 because 2024 draft just ended, but this is my way too early 2025 NFL mock draft. Few things I want to establish before I even get into the video. One, the order is not my pick. It's not my choice of the order. These are based on Super Bowl odds for the 2025 season, so the Panthers have the lowest odds, and then the Chiefs have the highest odds. Second, I want to more focus on the players more than where I think they're going to go and the teams that I think they're going to go to and what the teams are going to need. I'm going to pick on the teams based on what I anticipate their needs will be and what they didn't necessarily focus on in this year's draft. And then to get that out of the way, I want to really focus on these players, and I want to show in the end of the video, I'll go a little bit further on some other players that I didn't mention in the first round that can be guys that are that you should look out for next year. But again, everybody, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. 92% of you guys are not subscribed, and we had an awesome draft season, so make sure you guys stick with me throughout the entire offseason. I'm also going to make a 2025 NFL draft board if you guys liked that series on YouTube. I'm probably going to do it this year, but maybe not as big as I did this year. I was offered a lot of time because I did it as an independent study, which is college credit. Let's get right into this video. First off, for the Carolina Panthers, I want to go with James Pierce. James Pierce is my number one edge rusher in next year's class. He's also, I think, a shoo-in for the top 5. Outside linebacker, he had 13 sacks. I think it was 12 listed by ESPN, but good size at 6'5", 242 pounds. Converts speed to power very effectively. Technically very sound. He reminds me of kind of 2022 Will Anderson at Alabama. Also had a pass rush win rate of around 20. I think that's an estimate. And as well as for the Carolina Panthers, you lose Brian Burns last year. They don't really have an edge one right now. You can come back next year with edge in mind for next year and go ahead and get James Pierce, who is right now I think the projected number 1 overall pick in a lot of people's way too early mock drafts, and it just kind of makes a lot of sense. The Patriots, I don't think the Patriots end up at 2. I think a lot of teams end up worse than them. They addressed quarterback already, so they don't have to do that. So what I'm going to address next is going to be tackle. And my favorite tackle in next year's class is going to be Will Campbell. 0 sacks allowed, only 17 pressures. Played as a full-time freshman. He played as a full-time sophomore, both at left tackle, over 800 snaps in both years. Very good, great size at 6'6", 225 pounds listed currently. Very, very, very secure left tackle, as well as he has really good athleticism, so his kick slide is quick and has a long wingspan, so he doesn't let guys get to his chest early, and 0 sacks last year was a really good sign. I don't know how many sacks he allowed. Only 2 sacks in his freshman year, too. And then moving on to the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are going to be a weird one because I don't anticipate a lot of, or I don't necessarily know where they're going to be exactly. And I have 2 picks for them, really. It's either going to be Mason Graham or it's going to be Luther Burden. And I'm going to go with Luther Burden. So, obviously, I don't think a wide receiver will go top 3. Marvin Harrison is one of the greatest wide receiver prospects, and he had to go 4 because of the quarterback needs. It's going to be a weird class with the quarterbacks because I think they are going to go later in this year's class. But let's go ahead and get Luther Burden. I wish they showed these advanced statistics and kept it up for 2023. However, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, phenomenal at the catch point. This dude he plays a lot bigger than 5'11", 208 pounds. I know he is of a stockier build, but great speed, runs away from guys on go routes, great at the catch point, phenomenal hands. Love Luther Burden. I think he's a shoo-in for the top 10 pick. I know this is early, but again, for the Denver Broncos, I anticipate a heavy need for a wide receiver, especially next year. They did get Troy Franklin, but I think Cortland Sutton is fine. You traded away Jerry Jeudy, anticipating a need for receiver. Luther Burden fits right in there. For the Tennessee Titans, they went ahead and they have Jeffrey Simmons, and they went and got Devontae Sweat, so that eliminates Mason Graham. What I'm going to go with is cornerback here. So, Will Johnson is my favorite cornerback in next year's class. This dude is insane. With Will Johnson, the competition he faced last year, he played a really high level of competition. Rome Odunze. He faced Marvin Harrison. And those 2 guys did give him the business. Marvin had around 100 yards, 100 yards in that game. Odunze had 89 in the national championship, but 0 touchdowns allowed, 29 passer rating allowed, 4 interceptions, and my house phone went off. But what I want to show is I already showed the 29 passer rating allowed, 4 interceptions, only 17 receptions allowed on the entire season. Will Johnson, phenomenal cornerback. His size, I think, is like, 6'1", 6'2", 202 pounds. Great size. Is a physical cornerback. Can play definitely. I think he can play man coverage at a very high level at the NFL. So I love that move. I think Will Johnson is a top 10 pick for me currently. My number one quarterback in this class, it's very, very, very close between Sanders and Carson Beck. But right now, I think it's Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck I think he can just thread it a little bit better. I know that, let me go back to Shedeur. I know that Shedeur Sanders' accuracy was very, very good and was very productive last year and not limiting mistakes. But 72 completion percentage in 418 attempts is very high. Almost had 4,000 yards on a high yards per attempt, or on a high average depth of target. That's what I meant. 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in the SEC, over 110 passer rating allowed, 6'4", 220 pounds. Very good accuracy, good in the pocket. My only issue currently that I have with him right now is he's a dead-on first read guy. He really, really stares down that first read, and he can look off it, and he is athletic enough to move in the pocket, but he is really loving that first read, and then is just kind of whatever. But for the Commanders here, this is, most importantly, I think that they should have addressed offensive tackle more in this draft. I really don't love their offensive line. I think it's going to be shaky next year, and I'm going to go with Kevin Banks Jr. When I was watching Dallas Turner film and when I was watching Texas film, Kevin Banks was very, very impressive. This dude is huge. 6'4", not huge, but it's like stocky. He has an extremely wide frame with 324 pounds. That could even go higher, really, at 6'4". When I was watching Dallas Turner specifically, whenever he tried to convert speed to power, even if he had a long runway, Kevin Banks would just wall him off. Good hand technique. I think he is definitely my tackle 2 in this class, especially also because he played a large amount of snaps at left tackle last year and only allowed 11 pressures. For the Arizona Cardinals, this is where I'm going to go with Mason Graham. I know that they just got Darius Robinson in this year's class, 28th overall. I think they can once again go with interior defensive lineman. You lose J.J. Watt 2 years ago as of now. And then Mason Graham, man, he was the he was the Big Ten defensive player of the game for the Alabama game and for the Big Ten championship game. I don't know if he was a Big Ten All-American. I know that for sure. But you'll see the other Michigan defensive lineman, Kenneth Grant, later in the draft, later in the mock draft here. They had a rotation last year. So you had Graham, you had Kenneth Grant, and then you had Chris Jenkins. Chris Jenkins went in this year's draft, but Mason Graham, you might see a low snap count with 442 and only 4 sacks and then 25 pressures. But this dude, very, very powerful, great pass rusher, big 2 at 318 pounds. I think Mason Graham is also, I think he becomes an All-American this year. He's going to get an increased amount of playing time now at Michigan. Love that pick. And then for the Minnesota Vikings, this is where I'm going to go with my first fun pick of the day. So with Harold Perkins, he's a very, very interesting player. Again, you aren't going to see these stats, which I wish you did. But what I want to show most importantly is look at how Perkins plays all over the place. In his freshman year, 200 here, or 200 in the D-line, 100 in the slot, 100 in the box, and then this year he literally played pretty much everywhere. So he kind of plays everywhere. I love him the most as an edge rusher, but he really is a jack, and he is, probably the best jack linebacker I've ever seen. This dude is a phenomenal pass rusher. His ghost rush is really, really smooth because his bend is great for his frame. Also, this dude is crazy athletic. As a 6'1", 222-pound guy, I understand why you can't make him as a full-time edge rusher, but he had 7.5 sacks in 2021, and then this year, or sorry, 7.5 sacks in 2022. And then this year, I think it was like 5 or 6, just because he didn't pass rush as much. But then in coverage, he allowed a passer rating of less than 50. So he can pass rush at an elite level for his size. He can play in coverage at an elite level. A good tackler too. I think that Harold Perkins he's an incredibly fun player. And I've watched some film on him too. Really love Harold Perkins. I think he is like, he's just a hybrid, and he's a really, really, really fun hybrid guy. And then I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders for the Raiders. I think that they should be looking towards a long-term quarterback option pretty soon. 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 68% completion percentage. Great production there from Colorado. The only one thing is maybe the overall athleticism outside of the pocket. Not athleticism, but he's a pocket guy. I think he's a pure pocket quarterback, really. And then the Colorado offensive line wasn't really good last year, and they did improve it in the offseason, but hopefully that line gets a lot better. But he's got some very good accuracy. His arm is good. I don't think he has the strongest arm, but I do like Shedeur Sanders. I think he probably will end up as a top 10 pick. And then for the Seahawks, I think that this is kind of where we go with our second wide receiver here. Going to go with, I'm going to butcher his name, Tetairoa McMillan. Probably butchered his name, but you guys should put this guy on the map, or you guys should make sure you mark him down for next year's draft. This dude had 1,400 receiving yards at Arizona, 10 touchdowns. This dude is 6'5", 205 pounds. I mean, great at the catch point, good speed, good route running ability for his size too. Man, McMillan is a guy to really, really look out for, especially Arizona too. Arizona is a very underrated team. They remind me of FSU last year, and with Fafita at quarterback as well. I don't know if he's right here. No Fafita. You guys should. He is on my Heisman watch too. But moving on to the Buccaneers, this is where I anticipate, or sorry, no, not the Buccaneers, the Saints. And I'm going to go with Milroe here. I know a lot of people will want to go with Quinn Ewers, and I think this is way too early for Ewers here. Way, 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 way too early. Going to go with Milroe here. Improved a lot more in the back half of the season. He got benched for one game, and I think Alabama, I don't know if they lost that game, but they extremely struggled once he got benched. They put him back in, and then Alabama went on a huge winning streak. They ended up winning the SEC championship game. 23 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, but a lot of what you're not going to see is his rushing stats, which this dude is a phenomenal rusher, and he's kind of like a bowling ball style of rusher. He's extremely hard to bring down. It seems like arm tackles are really not helping tackle him because he's a bulky guy, 6'2", 220 pounds, but he has real bulk, and I mean, in the open field, hard to tackle. That's the big thing for me. And then also very strong arm. Like he throws lasers. And then for the Buccaneers, give me Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morrison had a bit of a step down from his freshman year, which was insane. This dude had 6 interceptions, a 29 passer rating allowed in 2022. He was really, really, really good in 2022. Last year, a little bit more on and off. But more or less because I think it's just because of the competition Notre Dame faced. They faced a better competition this year. 60 passer rating allowed, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Again, the same amount of targets, pretty much the same amount of receptions allowed. Benjamin Morris, not the biggest guy, but good technique and good speed, like him for the Buccaneers, who I anticipate a need for cornerback for them in the future. The Colts. This is where I'm going to end up taking Travis Hunter. I thought they were going to address cornerback big time in this draft, but their first 2 picks were Leato 2, and I don't know if they picked cornerback in the top in day 1 or day 2. So I'm going to go with one here. Travis Hunter, everybody knows, basically everybody really knows him in the college football landscape, wide receiver and cornerback. They're listing him at cornerback, which I also think is going to be where he will be at the NFL, but I think he'll be a hybrid. The issue, or not the issue, the concern with Hunter is his extreme snap count. He plays like 100 a game, really, on average. And that's a lot of wear and tear on his body. And can he keep that up for an entire season? He'll either have to pick a position or he'll play halvesies for each. And I mean, for the Colts, this could work out either. They could use him as a slot, and then they could also use him as a cornerback. 5 touchdowns allowed, but this is also his first full year as a full-time player, especially in Colorado. 3 interceptions, though. Great hands, especially when you have a guy who can play receiver. When you put him at cornerback, he's going to force a ton of interceptions, just because that's his nature as a player, and he understands where to be to catch the ball. So that's a very unique trait. It's just he's a bit thin, but very athletic and very fast player. Great acceleration. For the Steelers, this is where I'm going to go with Delaney Walker. Humongous guy. He's 348 pounds and 6'6". Massive interior defensive lineman. Plays with a ton of power, and I mean he plays everywhere too. Over tackle, which is kind of like the 4-eye or the 5-tech, and then again with the B-tech as a 3-tech, which is a 4-3 defensive lineman. That's kind of where I see him at the NFL level. Had 7.5 or 7 sacks. They listed at 8 for PFF. Like Delaney Walker, huge guy. For the Rams, this is where I'm going to take quarterback. This is where I'm going to take quarterback with Quinn Ewers. Again, I don't think Quinn Ewers will go this high in the draft. I think he's a very late first-round guy or a second-round guy in next year's class. My one issue is the late-in-the-game ability and kind of the frenzy that he plays with, or the nervousness, I feel like sometimes. We saw against the Washington game on the last drive. I felt like he was nervous. And I mean, it definitely expected to be nervous. But late in some of those games, they were just the very little, like, the throw was off over the guy's shoulder, or it took multiple attempts in the red zone, especially that last touchdown that they scored. It was like he was stuck in the pocket, had cement feet, and then was just looking around, and then made a throw just to get it out because the pressure was coming. And then the accuracy. He took a massive boost in accuracy this year, but he is losing 2 NFL wide receivers with Worthy and Mitchell. He is getting Isaiah Bond, a 5-star receiver that transferred from Alabama. I just don't know how elite he'll be this year. I more think that Texas as a team is still going to be good, though. Jaguars, they didn't address cornerback like I would have wanted to. I'm going to end up going with Jabbar Muhammad. So a lot of these guys, this is a big thing with the PFF simulator right now, is there are some transfers that they haven't accounted for currently. You can look at right here with Nick, I forgot how to say his name, but Nick Scorton, and then Jabbar Muhammad. Muhammad is in Oregon right now. Scorton is in Texas A&M. Just to make note of that, so you guys know. So Jabbar Muhammad, he was a Washington cornerback, and he played very well, especially especially down the stretch when he went up against some really good competition. Notably, Texas was his best game. 2 touchdowns allowed, 3 interceptions, a 60 passer rating allowed. Played a really, really large amount of snaps, 937, which is a lot, but he's a full-time cornerback. Bit of a smaller guy at 5'10", 183 pounds, but he is still physical, though, and doesn't get beat over the top as much. Good fluidity as well. Good mover as a cornerback. And then for the Jaguars, they didn't really address cornerback, and I think that was one of the biggest things that they should have done. So for the Cleveland Browns, I would go wide receiver, and this is a little early for it though. But I don't think it's too early for. I'll go with receiver. Okay, I'm gonna go with Emeka Egbuka. So I would have picked safety, but their defense isn't too reliant on safety. So with Egbuka, you see a really, really good 2022, 1,000 yards. He did have a drop-off last year, but notably it was because of quarterback play. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but the Ohio State quarterback transferred to Syracuse. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. But yeah. So the quarterback play had a huge drop-off from C.J. Stroud last year. Even though they did win a lot of games, it just looked a lot worse. Marvin Harrison, yeah, I mean, he still had a lot of production, but it was more or less everybody else had lower production. And notably, that was Emeka Egbuka, who took almost a 500-yard drop. But this dude has really good hands, very good speed. reminds me of like Jalen Polk of this year's class, with even more potential and better after the catch and a little bit faster. For the Chicago Bears, this is where I'm going to take my first safety of the day in Malachi Starks. You can really pick which one you like. If you like Xavier Watts more, or if you like Malachi Starks more, whichever one you want. It's really SEC defense versus ACC or Big Ten safeties, really. But Starks, really, really, really good safety. 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. He was an All-American last year. Great tackler, great within the box, and again, he's more of a free safety type. Can carry receivers, can do a whole bunch of things. And I mean, Malachi Starks, I think that both these safeties have a great chance to go in the first round because they were All-Americans last year. I think they could even be All-Americans again this year. For the Chargers, this is where I'm going to take Nick Scorton. This is a bigger edge rusher at 260 pounds, 6'4". He is more of you could say a 3-4 defensive end or a 4-3 hands in the dirt defensive end. Similar to like a lot of guys in a lot of defensive linemen in this class. This is a bigger defensive line class. Like Sawyer is bigger at 365 pounds. Tula Mulawau is 270 pounds. Gioti is 270 pounds. Yuman Malayan is an actual like runway 3-4 edge rusher. Even if you want to add Michael Williams, he's 265 pounds. But going back to Scorton, 8 sacks. I think he had an 18 or 19% pass rush win rate. Again, plays D5 tech as a bigger guy. Has a good bull rush too. And then for the Chargers, they don't have Khalil Mack anymore, and they have Tuolopatui as their edge rusher now, their full-time edge rusher, but always great to add depth there. And then for the Houston Texans, this is where I'm going to go with a more different pick. Going to go with Abdul Carter here. So the thing about Abdul Carter is he was also an off-ball linebacker. As you can see, he played in the box here. Was fine in that role in the last 2 years, really playing. Was good. But now he is moving to a full-time off-ball linebacker. Not a full-time. As an edge rusher. He's moving to a full-time edge rusher for Penn State after they lost Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac. Moved him down, as well as, I mean, he has the size to do it. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. So this is really a potential pick. If he plays really well, he'll probably play his way into the first round. If he doesn't play really well, he'll probably be in the second or third, or he can come back for a year. But we'll have to really see how he does at edge rusher. He has some good bend and great athleticism, really. So we'll have to see how that goes. And then for the Jets, this could either be quarterback, but I already took all of the big four. I don't think Drew Aller has a chance to go in the first round this year. Same thing with Dylan Gabriel. He's going to be 24 years old. This is where I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Evan Stewart. So the one thing about Evan Stewart is the production. Has not gotten close to 1,000 yards yet, but also hasn't had the opportunity to really. He did have 99 targets in 2022, but only 59 this year, as he only played 8 games, had a bit of an injury. Kind of an injury-riddled season. I know he got injured twice and only 4 touchdowns, and he's also transferred to Oregon. The one thing that they also didn't mark down is Stewart is at Oregon now. So really good speed with him, great route running, great deep threat. Doesn't play through contact the greatest, but I think that there is definitely a chance. He's super talented as a receiver, even if the production hasn't showed it yet. I think this year at Oregon, he can do some really, really good things, and I thought that was a great place to transfer to. And then for the Falcons, I anticipate a need at cornerback, so I'm going to go with well, I forgot to pronounce his name too, but all right, so I had to pause the recording to pronounce his name correctly, but it's Tacario Davis. This is another potential pick for me here, because he had a really good down the stretch. Same thing with the whole Arizona team, but he had a really good couple of games down the stretch of 2023. But 4 touchdowns and 1 interception, 76 passer rating allowed. is a tall but thin cornerback. Really like that Sauce Gardner build here at 6'4", 185 pounds. But you also have some really good athletic traits, some good speed, and he played a lot better down the stretch last year. So with a full year, he could definitely play himself into maybe as a top 3 or I think I've only taken. He's been my third cornerback that I've taken. No, fourth quarterback that I take. He can enter himself into a top 3, maybe 4 cornerback in this class. It's a really deep cornerback class, and it's a good one too. And then for the Dolphins, I'm gonna go with the Johnny. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Let me go with the Johnny Cornelius here. So, whenever I was watching Bo Nix film, both Oregon tackles, by the way. Let me show you Josh Cornelly or Connerly. Cornelius and Connerly, both very, very good tackles, as well as the guards were really good too. Jackson Paris Johnson was a phenomenal guy. I'm more looking towards the right side for the Dolphins. It depends on what they're going to do with Tua's contract situation, but I think they're going to keep him. So 0 sacks allowed. Had a really good 2022 as well. Played a huge amount of snaps, especially on the right side. Only 11 pressures allowed. Very big tackle as well, man. Or not as big as a tackle, but tall per se. And also wide frame, good athleticism, good movement for a tackle as well. Green Bay Packers, I'm anticipating a big need for cornerback. And this could be... Oh, no, they already took slot. They already took slot in this year's class with Kitten Oladapo. But look at Sebastian Castro. This is another Iowa guy, another Iowa white cornerback. If you guys loved Cooper DeJean in this year's class, they're gonna put out another one, and he is a true slot. So there's no quarrels about him playing the boundary, but this dude can actually play the slot and play safety. I'm gonna go with Denzel Burke. So I mean, the only thing that I've been seeing out of training camp for Ohio State, or spring ball really, is Burke getting destroyed by Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he's been having a tough time with him. But again, this guy is a stockier cornerback at 6'1", 190 pounds. Good in zone coverage, good in man. But he had a bit of a rougher 2022, but he had a better year this year and has taken steps up in the last couple of years. But Jeremiah Smith, man, is giving him a tough time, even as a freshman. And then for the Cowboys, this could have been another time where I picked quarterback, because I don't know exactly what's going to go on with Dak Prescott. So I'm going to go with Xavier Watts. Let's go with safety here. Maybe not the greatest need for the Dallas Cowboys. They don't necessarily need tight end or needs a safety, but I'm definitely going to go with a fun pick here and Xavier Watts. Again, an All-American. This dude had, I think, 5 interceptions last year. Great anticipatory skills. Also, he is stocky at 5'11", 204 pounds. Good pick there, or I mean, a good player there for the Cowboys. I don't know necessarily what they would, if they desperately need safety really, but gonna go with tackle again for the Eagles. I'm anticipating a need because Lane Johnson only has a few years left, and I don't know if he got hurt. He doesn't really get hurt. He's a very consistent tackle, but I think he only has like 2 years left or something, and they don't really have any other desperate needs. They went heavily on cornerback this year in the draft, so that kind of eliminates their secondary need necessarily, and also like there aren't any linebackers that are worth taking at this point. Barrett Carter and Stutzman I love, but they're not going to go in the first round, I don't think, unless they do. But I'm going to go ahead and get. I was going to go with Savaiania. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm probably going to be wrong again. Savaiania. Hopefully, we'll settle at that. 2 sacks allowed. Had 16 pressures total. Plays on the right side. Can play guard. Can play tackle. And overall, again, another Arizona guy. Bigger guy, 335 pounds, 6'5". Good run blocker as well. For the Detroit Lions, let's go with edge rusher here. I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer. For him, 8 sacks, very strong bull rush. His real strength is his bull rush. 265 pounds, like that pick there. For the Cincinnati Bengals, let's combine Uh, let's combine Chris Jenkins and Kenneth Grant. So Kenneth Grant, really like him a ton. This dude has a deep bag of pass rush moves for a defensive tackle, which is crazy because he is huge. Also, a lot of power. A lot of power that he loves to play with, and he's a much bigger defensive lineman. Plays kind of the 2-eye, but again, he can play the 3-tech. And then we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills. I'm anticipating a heavy need at cornerback, really. So, yeah, they didn't really pick cornerback too much in this draft. I'm definitely going to go with Sebastian Castro. Too early. It's too early. I'm going to go with edge rusher. Let's go with Princely Uomenmelean. Really good bend and speed off of the edge. Explosive edge rusher. 6'5", 254. He was like a potential first rounder in the middle of the season this year, but he decided to transfer. Again, he is not a Florida Gator. I forgot where. Oh no, he went to Ole Miss. Transferred to Ole Miss. Again, not a Florida player, but good acceleration and speed and bend off the edge. For the Ravens, I'm anticipating a tackle need here. Gonna probably go with. No, let's look at the board a little bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and take tackle. This is another solid tackle class. It's either I'm looking at the I'm looking at the left side. So let's go with I'm thinking Cornely because Emory Jones is the right side. I'm thinking Cornely, and let's go ahead and pick him. Josh Cornely, 1 sack allowed, only 17 pressures in 2023. I think he'll have another great year. 6'4", 305 pounds. His movement is really good. Not the most powerful player, but his movement is really good. And also his slide and really good in pass pro too. For the 49ers. 49ers, this is a weird pick for them. I also don't think they're going to be back here, but again, Super Bowl odds. I'm looking for a need at interior defensive line, and I'm going to go with an interesting one. It could either be Harold Cross or Dante Corleone. Corleone didn't have the greatest year last year, but neither did the entire Cincinnati roster. So I don't think I'm going to go with Walter Nolan either, because Walter Nolan, again, another Ole Miss transfer from Texas A&M. Again, I think he'll stay another year of college. I think he'll be a senior guy. I'm going to go with the only secure guy that I know will probably be in this class, which is Howard Cross. Had a really good 2023. Look at the grade. 3 sacks. A lot of pressures. He was top, not 10, but I think top 15 in pressures among interior defensive linemen. Great pass rusher as well. And then for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to pick JT Tuimoloau. Actually, let me make sure I didn't pick a guy who obviously should go in the first round. Mykel Williams is a very interesting one because he's a huge potential pick for next year. Also, I think not an edge rusher, an interior defensive lineman. He plays, I don't know. Well, they say he is an edge rusher, but I don't know if they're going to move him inside. He's a potential guy here, as well as I'm going to come back. I'm going to spin back, and I'm going to show you guys some other guys that I'm really looking at. But I'm going to head and go and get JT Tuimoloau. All right, we're back on the loading screen because I did want to talk more about JT Tuimoloau because I wanted to show you guys his numbers. This dude is humongous, man. He looks huge too, but he plays the edge rusher, outside tackle, which is essentially the 5-tech or anything past that. This dude is a true edge rusher, and he's 270 pounds. Phenomenal bull rush. I've been talking about him all throughout last year because whenever I was talking about Olu Fashanu, who was drafted 11th to the Jets, Tuimoloau was the one who gave him a lot. Like, he gave him the business, man. But he is a flat-out just inconsistent player, honestly. A good run defender and a really good edge setter. Flat-out inconsistent pass rusher. Multiple games with like 0 or 1 pressure, and then he has crazy games, especially against Penn State. In 2022, he had like 2 picks, 2 sacks, a forced fumble against Penn State, and then last year bullied Olu Fashanu again, 6 pressures, a sack. Had crazy days against Penn State. He's probably going to do it again this year, but inconsistent player, flat out. But again, really good bull rush. But I wanted to look at some other guys that I want to tell you guys. I want to show you guys more options that could have gone in the first round that I just ended up not picking. First, we'll start off with the other edge rusher, which is Mykel Williams. I think, again, I said it earlier, I think he'll play more of an interior defensive lineman or a 4-eye role, which is a 3-4 defensive end. 6'5", 265 pounds. 6 sacks last year, 6 sacks in 2022. Very consistent, good pass rusher. Again, another power guy, another power rusher. And then we've got Ashton Giotti, 9 sacks. Last year you had, let me do the calculation. You had 58 pressures last year. Get another bigger guy at 6'3", 270 pounds. Let's look at the quarterback class. You, of course, got Drew Aller. You, of course, Drew Aller. The accuracy is just the one thing, man. Kind of a spacey accuracy, but doesn't put the ball into harm's way that much. But again, he's kind of limited. His ceiling is super limited. You have Dylan Gabriel, very, very good quarterback, had a phenomenal game against Texas. It's just he's older and he's a left-handed quarterback and smaller. Riley Leonard went back to school. I think he transferred too. I don't know where he went, but Jackson Dart is really low on this board, but he's a potential first rounder as well. Noah Fafita, Cameron Ward, and then I didn't even mention this entire video, the running back class. Very, very crazy good running back class. Ollie Gordon, man, he had 1,700 yards last year. Also is a good receiving option with 39 receptions, 330 yards. Bowling ball style of running back too. Great vision. Quinshon Judkins, I mean, another bowling ball guy, but he was crazy in 2022. Really, really good year again in 2023. But again, this is an Ole Miss. It's a mistake here. He's in Ohio State right now. Very, very good between the tackle rushers. Amarian Hampton is really crazy. He's got great speed. 1,500 yards last year and 15 touchdowns. He was a very, very, very good running back. Trevion Henderson came back from injury this year and had a great year. Very efficient running back. Great as a pass catcher. Donovan Edwards, everybody knows him. Didn't have a lot of opportunity, honestly, last year, and then his efficiency dropped off massively from what it was in 2022, but very clutch running back. This dude had 2 touchdowns in the national championship and 2 huge runs. Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis Etienne. Taj Brooks is in this class. And then with the wide receivers that I didn't mention, you've got like Trey Harris. He had a very good year at Ole Miss last year. He should be the wide receiver 1 there. Isaiah Bond transferred to Texas this year. Had a solid year at Alabama. Going to Texas to be the wide receiver 1. Tez Johnson, even if he's a lot smaller, he's 5'10", 160 pounds. Very, very good after the catch. Very fast and very quick guy. He reminds me a lot of like not of Kadarius Toney, but a guy who can really just is shifty and a start and stop, and can really stop on a dime. This guy, Elik Ayomanar, I don't know how to say his name. This dude gave Travis Hunter the business last year. He mossed Travis Hunter. Torrey Horton was a really underrated guy that I thought could go this year. Came back to Colorado, had over 1,000 yards, and a really, really good year last year. Antoine Wells Jr. It did get injured, but had a really good 2022, and I thought he would play a lot better this year, but obviously he did get injured at South Carolina. That gave Leggett a lot of opportunity last year as that wide receiver 1. Some other offensive tackles like Emory Jones Jr. I think he's another late first round potential guy. Jonah Moheim didn't have as great as a year this year, but had a very good 2022. And then let's look at some other. The interior offensive line class is all right, but what else can I mention? Let's look at the other cornerbacks maybe, like Sebastian Castro. This is the best slot, in my opinion, in next year's class. 0 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 43 passer rating allowed. The highest pass, or the lowest passer rating allowed in the slot, and the highest slot grade according to PFF. Andrew Mukaba, again, another transfer. Where else? Where else can I look at? The linebacker class too, like with Barrett Carter. Very good, like a bowling ball or running or weak side guy, but very athletic and very good coming downhill. And then you have Danny Studsman. This is another hybrid guy who can be a really good pass rusher, can be a really good linebacker, good tackles too. Solid build at 6'4", 241 pounds. Jordan Dumas-Johnson. This is the money linebacker at Georgia. I don't know if he transferred. But Jay Higgins too. Higgins is in this class. I think we have another really solid class on our hands. But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know some of your favorite prospects for next year's class. Let me know some guys that you hope your favorite team picks in next year's draft class. But that's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video.